Hello, North Jersey Aquarium Society, and welcome to our August 2020 virtual meeting. I know we usually have a picnic in August, but because of COVID, we were unable to do that this year. So the board wanted to do something a little bit special in place of the picnic. So I asked my personal friend, Joey Mullen. I've known him a few years now, king of DIY. We've gotten into some trouble at some fish events over the years. I had a lot of fun. I asked him if he could come on and do a presentation for us. If you're not familiar with Joey, you've probably been hiding under a rock. I know North Jersey Aquarium Society is not, shy of having large aquarium personalities, having Rosario LaCourte be a member and Paul Lozelle. But in today's world, in a virtual world, Joey's probably the biggest thing out there. Joey runs a YouTube channel called The King of DIY. And Joey, you got over 1 million followers now, right? What are you up to, like 1.3 million last I saw?
Yeah, some there's around there. Definitely over 1 million now.
So for you aquarium people thinking that this hobby is not that big, Joey is a testament for how many people out there share the same interests you do. So I don't want to go through too much stuff or take up too much time. Joey, I want to thank you personally for doing this for us. And Joey's going to talk. Joey's going to talk a little bit today about what happens when an Aquarius gets quarantined and what's been going on up in Canada, where he's been stuck in his house just like the rest of us. Joey, it's all yours.
Yeah, so basically, let me see, how do we want to do this here, though? So what I'd like to do with this talk is basically just break down what I've been up to over the past, 5 months since we've been locked down worldwide, essentially, and show you guys some things that I haven't shown anybody yet, or things that you've seen but didn't get the full information. For example, I'll be showing you guys the 2,000-gallon aquarium, which is finished now. But if you watch my videos, you'll know that it looks like I'm still way behind on it. Fact of the matter is I'm usually 3 to 4 weeks ahead in videos. So some of these things you'll see in advance before anybody else. If you're not familiar with who I am, like Jay was introducing me, my name is Joey Mullen. I'm a hobbyist, aquarium hobbyist from Nova Scotia, Canada, father of 2 children, and I live in actually Truro, which is a small town in central Nova Scotia. So I'm going to start this up here for you guys, and I believe we break down a few things anyway. So brief introduction, we've already kind of done that, but if you're not familiar with my aquarium gallery, it's an entire building dedicated to aquariums directly beside my house. It's literally 7 feet apart. I built this a little more than 3 years ago at this point. And there's been like 3 iterations. Once a year, I completely redo everything in the gallery, and this is the third time when we're going to take a look inside. When you walk in, there's a 100-gallon cylinder tank to the left. I just took these pictures yesterday. My arowana is not 8 feet long as it appears in that. That's a panoramic picture, and it just kind of stretched them out. That's a 700-gallon tank with some freshwater stingrays, Asian arowana, giant gourami, some Sinspilla, and waru. Geez, what else is in there? We've got some sunshine pleco. There's there's a Bisher in there, some clown loaches. It's a fun tank to have, and you can see over to the left is the 2,000-gallon aquarium, and it's now covered, which is what most people were waiting for. In the main section of the gallery, again, I just took these yesterday, so a little messy out there, but there's 5 120-gallon tanks to the left. On the far end, there is a 375-gallon saltwater tank, and in the center of the room, of course, is the 2,000. It's just another view from it. Again, messy. All right, these are just all different shots of the tanks. Quarantine room as well, messy. That's going to be the theme of the gallery, messy. Always usually messy. So over the past 5 months, this is going to get a little Some of this will be a little personal, and I don't think many of you guys would be ready to hear this sort of thing, or might be a little surprised of what's been going on on my side of things over the past 5 months. But obviously, in Canada, our quarantine has been a little bit different than in the United States. The virus hasn't been as prolific here as it has been there, but obviously there's a 10 times population difference, so it's going to have an impact. So it was on March 22nd that my province, Nova Scotia, declared a state of emergency. A lot of non-essential people lost their jobs and or were laid off. One of my biggest concerns with this pandemic personally was, one, the local economy. It's not going to take much to completely ruin it, but I don't think a lot of people. I think when you look at a YouTuber and you know, like, they just stay home all the time and how lucky they must be, but I think human interaction is incredibly important, and without it, your mental health is incredibly at risk. And I already suffer from depression and anxiety, so a lot of the times when I'm home alone, or there's no sort of human interaction, could be days before see somebody in the general public type of thing. I think that many people aren't ready, or we're not ready to have that type of isolation, but they look at YouTubers and think, like, that's got to be awesome. That's going to be great. And I've always warned other YouTubers about this that want to go full-time YouTuber. I just warn them it's the loneliest job in the world. And I think, like, a lot of the world kind of got an idea of what it's like to be alone. And to be locked down, and nobody, like, you don't have friends that have normal jobs, or all your friends have normal jobs. Your hours are different than them. It's a really weird situation to be in. But so I was already kind of ready for a lockdown, but again, most people were not. On April 2nd, something really horrible happened. So everybody knows Joey's got over 1 million subscribers, and they think I make millions of dollars, including, unfortunately, family members that want to kind of take advantage of this. Not only are we in lockdown and everybody's going depressed, but I had a distant family relative. I haven't seen my father in like 20 years, so I didn't know, or more than 20 years, but I think 30 years. But I was told he died, and I've got to cover the funeral expenses because there is nobody to do it. And little did I know, and they wanted, I think, $8,000 or $9,000 or something like that, thinking that, just take advantage of me. It turns out he wasn't dead, but just things like this kept happening. And just a few days later, 2 weeks later, we had the largest mass shooting in Canada's history. Where we lost, I think it was 22 people in my town and surrounding area, affecting people that I knew. So not only are we going through this lockdown, but I'm just kind of, walking you through, like, this state of mind that not only are we locked down, but all these things are starting to happen, and it's getting pretty bad for me. And, I was just getting into a deeper and deeper depression. May 6th, a local kid went missing, and he's still gone. And these things might happen a lot more in the States, but this is not common in my town at all. These were incredibly traumatizing events that happened in my local community, and it was really tough on a lot of people, including myself. I've also been going through a divorce for the past 2 years, and that's been pretty difficult on myself. I still have my kids. I mean, nothing's too dramatic, but I was married for 5 months. It was just a mistake in terms of, like, just jumped the gun. Shouldn't have did it. Should have thought it through a little bit more, and realized I'm marrying the wrong person, and going through that is really tough on me. So that's what I've been doing in my lockdown, is going through some of the most traumatizing things that I have. And not only are they traumatizing, but we're locked down right now. So my depression and anxiety was at an all-time high. However, I still made 38 videos during the last 5 months. I still got on camera. I still smiled. I still had that energy. Even when I didn't want to, or when I didn't have it in me, at times it was really difficult to do it, but I kept going. I did need a change, though, and that's something that I do a lot. I find that helps me is I change things, or I work on something, and I decide to go outside and finally fix my deck. This is the back of my house. That's my that's my deck, if that's what we're going to call it. And I decided I'm going to rip it out and put in a new deck. So I did just that. This is it here. I had no plans on building a pond or anything at this time. There's Gary and Tamarian enjoying the work that I did. Tamara handed me screws. Gary just came over after it was done. I'm not giving him any credit. No. I decided, wouldn't it be really nice if sitting on this deck, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could look out and, maybe have a pool or a pond or something? But there's this national shortage with the lockdown. Everybody's doing staycations or they're staying at home. All the pools were bought up, hot tubs. There was nothing. I couldn't buy a mini pool, like a kid's pool, if I wanted to. So I decided I'm going to build that pond that I said I would build. I think it was like 5-6 years ago. We did videos. I had the liner, everything, and I eventually just backed out of it. The liner had holes in it and just never happened. I didn't want to do it. But if I was going to do this, I was like, I got to do it my way, the way I really want to do it. I wanted a swimming pond. If you've never swam with fish before in the ocean or a lake or somebody's pond, it's absolutely incredible. It's a fun and exciting experience. But the biggest thing for me was like, I know right now, because of the national pool shortage, that there's going to be a lot of people wanting a pool. And maybe they'll enjoy this, and maybe they'll do a pond instead, and perhaps get into fish. But I think that's we'll see later in this talk here that might be possible. So I knew this was going to take a lot of money, equipment, and time, and I had the time, but no equipment. And with lockdown and I'm a YouTuber, so I depend on ad revenue and people buying my merch and book and stuff. And with nobody working, they're not buying anything. And with many companies not able to open to the public, they pulled their advertising from YouTube. So everything was down for me. No money, just nothing but back-to-back traumatic experiences, etc. So I was like, I'm going to make some other changes in my life. And I used to have 2 really cool cars. And on June 22nd at 2:00, I decided I'm going to sell them both. I had a Corvette and an Escalade. Bad purchases, horrible idea. They were cool, but way out of being realistic, being able to, pay for them on a continuous basis. Had them for a couple of years, but I was sad to see them go, but happy to no longer have those bills, and definitely a smart decision. I did need a truck, so I just bought a truck. So at 2:00 on June 22nd, I sold them. At 4:00, I bought that. About a couple weeks later, I took the extra money and I rented a mini excavator. This thing was fun to drive, but the bucket was so super small. It took me 10 hours to dig this hole. And I only had it rented for 10 hours. You pay for every hour after that. We're going to break down the costs too, of what this type of things cost me. I don't have experience running excavators, but in my past jobs, I did run some bigger equipment, and it's very similar with the joysticks and stuff. So after about 5 minutes of figuring out what does what, I was able to get a hold of it and get it moving. The day it showed up is I dug almost the entire hole. It was kind of fun for me though, but guys like to do that stuff. We get a toy and we want to play with it. Unfortunately though, we're dealing with a lot of rain constantly, so the pond was constantly filled with mud. Even after covering it, it would just be really bad in there. So I could have had this done in a week, but because of the constant rain, it took about 3 weeks. I destroyed my entire backyard, which really sucked, but you'll see what is going to replace it here shortly. Now, this is going to be a lot different than what most people will expect a pond to be. Most will see a pond that's just, gradually gets deeper, lots of rock work, plants, et cetera, like basically a natural pond. I didn't want that. And a lot of people at first were confused or just didn't like it. A lot of people don't like what they don't understand though. What I wanted to create was a classic koi pond, like professional breeders use, which is basically just a big deep hole. It's usually square, rectangular. It's nothing fancy. So I decided I'm going to build a pool basically using pond supplies. However, the ground was rough. I didn't like it. I decided I'm going to build a frame up around it instead of just putting in a liner and then backfill it with all the dirt. I did that with 2x4s and then capped it off with 2x6s for bracing. Then on the inside, some plywood. And this is all pressure treated wood. Now, some people say it's not going to last for 5 years. Others, say 30, 40 years. I don't care if it lasts or not. I just needed it to hold the dirt pack until I filled it with water. If the wood wants to rot, then it can. It's going to be braced by the dirt after that anyways. Plywood in, patted it all down, added a liner for carpets. This goes under carpets I think it's like almost half inch, quarter inch, something like that. It's a half inch thick at least, of sponge material to absorb any rocks or sticks or anything that I did miss. The plywood doesn't need to be covered, but the bottom definitely had. I'm really happy I chose to go with this stuff too, because once you walk on it, it's super comfortable. The liner weighed 300 pounds. And I thought I was going to need a bunch of people to help me. But I actually was able to lay it out on my own, and I got it in less than 20 minutes, like done. It wasn't too difficult, but I definitely I should have wore gloves. It was too hot. My hands were burning. It was heavy. I had burns all on my hands. It sucked, but we got it done. I filled it up. At this point, I'm rushing because I feel like I started to panic. The summer's ending. This is taking too long. I want the kids to be able to enjoy it. I want to be able to get the fish. I want to show everybody. So I kind of just rushed a bunch of this, but I knew I wanted to build a deck around it. And I built it in 8-foot sections so I could remove them if I ever needed to. Really simple to build decks, I guess. I'm not good at it, but I'll make it work. Just a basic decking board, same decking board as I used on the original deck. You'll notice that there's always beer in the picture. I don't drink that often, but it seems like whenever I'm working on stuff like this, definitely gonna. So this is where a lot of people were like, oh, now I understand what you're doing. And you'll notice on the ends, there's where the wood doesn't connect on the sides there, those access hatches for the filtration that we'll see in a second. Well, we'll see it right now. I was going to build the filtration, but I got these pretty cheap from my local fish store. He brought them in, one fish, two fish in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. He brought them in for me pretty cheap and saved me a lot of time. It wasn't really about the money at this point. It was like, I got to get this done. I can always upgrade the filtration, but I want to get this up and running, filtered and cycled. So these pond filters are rated for 4,000 gallons, got ultraviolet sterilization included. And there's 2 of them, one on each side. You have the skimmer, and then the canister is basically right behind it. The pump goes in the skimmer, pumps the water to the canister, and returns to the tank. The pond. Oh, I don't know how that got in there. Sorry about that. I forgot that was in there. I did it on purpose, but I forgot it was there. So based on my bylaws, I also need to have a fence around this. So put up a fence. Was pretty quick. I do everything. Every section took I did it in one day type of thing. So dug the hole in one day, the liner and the deck the next, the fence the next. It wasn't a massively time consuming project, maybe 30 to 40 hours. So like a basic work week, but over the course of 3 weeks. Then hung some plants and some lights, and the lights really set it off. This is it at night. So that was on July 28th when I took that picture. And the breakdown of the costs, it came to about 5,900 Canadian, which is 4,400 US. For a pool this size, in ground, I would have been paying $20,000-$30,000 or something like that. Even a decent hot tub is going to cost me $5,000 to $10,000. So I think that while that price seems high to some, I think I definitely got a value out of that, and we'll enjoy it for years to come, especially my son. My son loves it. And the koi are already in there. I added 24 koi, butterfly koi to it about a week or 2 ago, I think it was. I'll have to look at my dates, but they're only small, 2-3 inches. Hard to get pictures of them. Was it worth it? Well, the last video went on to the trending page of YouTube, the #1 video website on the planet. We had another aquarium video on the homepage. It reached 28. We've gone higher in the past. We've hit #1 on the trending page, and been in the teens and the single digits. But I hadn't done it for about a year or 2, and all this time building this pond, I was like, I bet you this is going to trend. And the very next day when I uploaded this, it trended. So it was really cool to see. Another 2,000-gallon aquarium, just a few shots of that so you guys see that where I'm at with it. Yeah, so originally there was no background on the outside. Aqua Decor made all these, but now it's completely wrapped. Stocking is archer fish. I've got them already as well. I have 29 of them. They'll be going in here shortly. So that's what happens when a DIY fish keeper gets quarantined. I think that even though I was going through what I went through, which many of you guys are as well, I think that just try to do something different. Try to utilize your time and your efforts to do something positive, and most importantly, just get outside. If you're quarantined, it's really difficult to just sit in the house. So go outside and sit on the step instead of sitting on the couch, type of thing. Just get out, get some air, and really focus on your mental health. Play with your fish tanks. That really helps me. But ultimately, I hope we can all get through this a little faster and a little easier together.
Hey, Joe, that was fantastic, man. That pond really came out incredibly. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? You got a couple more minutes for us here?
Yeah. That's fine.
So I had been asked prior to this starting, someone asked me how you knew when it was time to dedicate to YouTube fully. Like, can you talk a little bit about when that happened and when you knew this was a thing, so to speak?
I don't operate well under safety nets. So a safety net is, well, I got a job, so I'm not really going to work that hard on my channel. You're not under the gun type of thing. So for me, I think I was at like 70, 80,000 subscribers. I hadn't hit 100,000 yet, I don't think. And I saw the potential in it. And I thought to myself, if I just really sacrifice and go hard, I bet you I can make this into something. I wasn't even really making any money then either. So I quit my job. I don't advise people to just quit their job and become a YouTuber, but that's what it took for me. I quit my job and I decided I'm going to double down on YouTube, go as hard as I can with it, and come up with different ways to make money. So one of my friends, you guys will know who he is. He's a YouTuber as well, Dustin. He's like, you should write a book. I was like, I'm not going to write a book. Nobody's going to buy my book. He's like, man, just do it. I was like, all right. So I sat down and wrote that book, and within 3 weeks I had written it and published it, a 552-page book in a 3-week period. It went on to become the #1 top-selling book of all time in every category, not just fish or animals, with my publisher. So that was pretty incredible. So it did really well. So thanks to Dustin. Shout out to him for recommending it. But for me, it was just, you just have to, if you really want something, you got to work harder than the next guy. You have to work and grind and hustle and hustle and hustle. But you also have to look at, like, what is your end goal with wanting to be a full-time YouTuber? What's your future in it? Where are you going to go with it? What do you want out of it? Is it the money, the fame? You just want the spare time, the free time, or it'd be totally up to the individual. However, my only suggestion is only do it if you love it. If you don't love it, and you're not successful at it, you're going to become bitter and angry. Do it because you love it. Do it for free. Everything that comes with it afterwards is definitely a bonus. I mean, I made videos when they're before ads or before anybody was making money for years, and nobody was really even watching me. I did it because I loved it. I really enjoyed making the videos and sharing my hobby and talking about my fish. And YouTube was an opportunity for me to basically ramble on about my fish and show off my aquariums without being interrupted. So I just always enjoyed it. Yeah. If you're going to do this, make sure you love it. Otherwise, it's probably not going to work out for you.
That's awesome, Joe. So we got a question about the pond here. How deep is it?
Oh, I should have went over measurements. Yeah. The pond originally was supposed to be 16 feet long by 10 feet wide and 5 feet deep. However, because once I got into the ground and plans changed, none of this was planned out, by the way. Like, things were like, I was ordering the liner, and as I was digging the hole type of thing, I never had a plan. So anyways, once I built the frame inside the pond, obviously the original dimensions shrunk by a couple of feet. So it's now 14 feet long 8 feet wide, and I made it 6 feet deep. But it only has 5.5 feet of water just for safety purposes. Like, my son's not a very strong swimmer, so when he gets in, it'll just come up. You can still touch it on his tippy toes. And I feel like it's the perfect height. You can still jump in. It's deep enough for the koi to be able to get away. But swimming with them is a lot of fun, and you can dive down, and it's an incredible amount of fun, and it's a manageable amount of water. I wasn't going for gallonage here or size. I just wanted like something that we would actually use, and that would be practical for, a handful of koi. And although there's 24 in it right now, the end goal there is to just pick the best 6 or best 8, because obviously, I can't keep 24 koi in 4,500 gallons of water. I think the rule of thumb is supposed to be, 500 gallons per koi.
So, Joe, how do you think it's going to overwinter? Are you going to worry about the top ice layer? Like, have you looked?
No, I mean, I've had a pool here before, like a 4-foot deep pool, and like the top few inches freeze, maybe 3 inches to 6 inches freeze. So I'm not really worried about the winter as much as everybody else is. All I'll have to do is drop the water level a little down a little bit, turn off the filters, empty them, and stop feeding. And that's it. They'll live under the ice. They'll be just fine. I mean, if I'm noticing they're struggling or anything, of course I could break the ice or put a de-icer in or an aerator or something like that. But for the most part, the pond is deep enough. It's below the frost line. They're definitely going to be okay. Tons of people have ponds here. But I do know that like a lot of people are worried about Canadian winters. And I've always questioned back, like, what do you think happens to Canadian lakes and rivers and streams? Do you think like all the fish die in the winter? No, they're fine. And they're going to be fine in the pond too. But yeah, Canada's not as cold as people think. I don't live in the Arctic. It's very similar to New Jersey. It's very similar in terms of maybe the winters are a little more severe, but I'm not. It's not like I'm living in an igloo or anything.
No, I've been up there. Joey's got a beautiful house. Do you want to talk a little bit about your gallery? I haven't seen. I've had the pleasure of being up there to see it. It's amazing, and as you know, Joey does it all himself. So, what's the gallery look like right now? How many tanks? What are you up to in there?
Well, I showed at the beginning of the talk there. I showed some updates there of the tanks, but I got a 700 gallon in there now. I think that's like the size of your tank.
Yep.
Jay, with your raise, I think.
Yeah.
What's the dimensions of yours? I think yours is like 5 feet wide too, isn't it?
No, mine is only 3 feet wide. It's actually 7. It's 500 gallons, 7.5 by 3 by 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is 8 by 5 by 2.5 or something like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The 5 feet depth is crazy.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, loved it. Yeah, I got that on the go, a cylinder tank, quarantine tanks. I got 520 gallon tanks. I got a big 375 gallon saltwater tank that's really cool. And then the 2000.
Yeah, you started messing with saltwater, huh? You went to the dark side?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, well, I've had saltwater tanks in the past, and this is like my 6th or 7th tank or so, maybe 8th, but I just wanted to incorporate it into the gallery a little bit more and, kind of get rid of the idea that if you're freshwater, you have to be freshwater and stick to fresh. Because I know a lot of freshwater hobbyists want to make the move to salt or at least dabble in it and try it. So I figured, what better example than to lead by getting one and setting it up and showing them, how simple and easy it can be. The downside is I run it like a freshwater tank in terms of water changes. I don't really focus on nutrient export. Which I should be, but so I got to do my water changes every week, and I go through a ton of salt. Fortunately, Fritz sends me they sent me like 20 boxes a year's supply, so that's been helpful. But I think what I'm going to have to look into with that salt is get into some nutrient export. I think I'll just add in some sort of macroalgae or something. We'll see where it goes.
Very nice. We have a couple more questions from the gallery here. So Jim Costello asked about the pond. Any algae yet, or how are you going to manage that?
Oh no, yeah. So the pond has those ultraviolet sterilizers. I think there's a total of 72 watts for ultraviolet sterilization. No algae at all and I don't know if it's because of the UV sterilizers or because I dyed the pond. I dyed it blue. It dissipates over time, and but Fritz sent me a bunch of this pond stuff, and I was like, I'm not dyeing the pond blue. And then one day I was like, maybe I'll do a half dose, and I really liked it. But what it does is it offers the fish more security, so they're more difficult to see from above. But it also stops light penetration and algae growth. I'm not completely positive if it's the sterilizer that's stopping algae or the dye, but or has the pond not been set up long enough? Although it's been filled with water for over a month, we've been swimming in it, and I've been dosing it with bacteria and ammonia, and now it has the fish in it, so it's definitely cycled. It definitely has the elements that algae requires. So yeah, I think that like a cheap alternative to what people can possibly do for their ponds is that pond dye. I thought that was pretty interesting. It looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, I actually saw when you first posted the pictures with blue. I was wondering how you got that color.
Yeah.
So we have a question from our friends over at the King and Queens of Cichlids.
Mm-hmm.
Scott asked, "What's your favorite tank and fish right now?"
Favorite tank and fish. Oh man, that changes every day. Actually, it changes every time I go out there. Multiple times a day, I'll go out and I'll see Susan, my giant gourami, and be like, "Oh, you're gorgeous." Or then one of the rays will just glide by, and I haven't really looked at them for a few days. I'm like, "Oh, you're the best." Or it's every day something different out there. I don't have a favorite anymore. I do have like crowd favorites. Like a lot of people like Susan. Everybody likes anything that I give a human name. So we've got a couple of puffer fish. We got a saltwater puffer fish and a freshwater puffer. They're Kevin and Tyrese. And then we have Susan. Those are the top three people that like the most or talk about the most because they have names and it's easy to remember them. But they're no level. They're not on the level Frank was in terms of popularity. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, Frank, that was a good fish. So what freshwater puffer is it? An Embo?
No, it's a Fahaka.
Nice.
And then the saltwater is a Stars and Stripes.
I like that. Stars and Stripes are beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's see. More questions. What's total gallonage in your gallery? Ever added up?
Geez, no. Maybe like 5,000 gallons. I wouldn't. It's not a lot. It used to be way more, but I just had so many tanks out there. I have half the amount of tanks that I started with. I still have them, but I decided I wanted to go focus on quality as opposed to quantity of the tanks. Because at first I just wanted to pack as many tanks into there as I possibly could. And I think you were there when I had the 10,
wall. Yep.
the whole wall, which was really cool, but it was really difficult to access the top tanks and do the water changes and escape them. So one day I decided I'll take them down, and I just I always move things around and I rebuild stuff, and I just find it's relaxing and I enjoy it. And as long as nobody's getting hurt, it's no harm.
What's the hardest part of being a professional YouTube celebrity? Do you ever wish you had a desk job?
I've been doing YouTube for over 12 years. It's difficult for me to imagine who I even am without YouTube, or what I would do. I've given the best years of my life to YouTube and dedicated it instead of working on a career outside of it, or schooling or anything like that. So if YouTube fails, I'm pretty much screwed. I don't know what I'll end up doing. I think that with that said, though, I love it, and I wouldn't change it. I mean, I enjoy the choices that I've made, and I'm actually back in college this September. I go back.
That's awesome, Joe. You told me about that.
Yeah. So what's it like to be a YouTuber though, or be a popular one? I think that it comes with pros and cons. Of course, the pros are absolutely the fact that I have the ability to promote the hobby on levels that before YouTube we've never really seen, and reach people all over the world with my message of like, you should get a fish tank. The downside is that the more popular you become, the bigger a target you are for people wanting to attack you or talk about you. And because I am a big name, it's easy to talk about me and get a lot of traction, and get a lot of attention and that sort of thing. So that could be difficult to deal with, because I'm not the type to a lot of the times to just be quiet or walk away or shut my mouth. And I have for the most part, but every once in a while it bugs me here and there. I just hope my children never see it, or, that sort of thing. Or it spills over to them. All their friends already know who I am and what I do, and their teachers do, etc. So it's already tough on them. They don't like being center of attention at all. So it's really already been, kind of difficult for them. But they like the idea that I'm a YouTuber, and they appreciate it, and the amount of time I put into it, and the fact that because I've worked so hard, I now have spare time and a tremendous amount of free time. I work from home. I mean, I'm home with them all the time. Not a lot of fathers are lucky enough to do that, to be there with their kids every single day. So,
yeah. That's awesome, man. I've seen you with your kids. You're a great dad, but I've also seen some of the venom you get from the trolls out there. That's got to be tough on you. Yeah. Do you have well water or city water?
I'm on well, yeah. So, and it's pretty good well water as well. The downside is that it's super hard water. It's hard enough to walk on. pH is 7.6 to 7.8 depending on the time of year. However, it has a high buffer capacity, so it's always the same. The hardness and the pH is always identical. I never have to worry. The only times that I do kind of stress out is during the spring, when the snow melts. All that water is just flushing down to the wells, and whatever's in the soil is going down with it for the most part. And sometimes, you can get arsenic in the water or something that can actually hurt your fish. So do got to be careful. So in the spring, right around probably April, April, May, I won't do water changes over 50% just in case.
Smart. You know what you're dealing with. That's good. Yeah. So we got one that's not usually for me or you, but Oshana asked if you have any plans of stocking a tank with dwarf cichlids, like a pistogrammus.
Yeah, I mean, I got some shell dwellers.
There you go.
Yeah, I got those. I've got those, the multifasciatus. What else I got for dwarfs? The problem is my tanks are so big. It's difficult to dedicate, a big tank to small fish. But I'm doing it with the shell dwellers are in 120 gallon, and I just added frontosa in there. The shell dwellers are breeding, and the frontosa hasn't eaten their fry yet, so that's been interesting to watch. And they've been in there for a couple weeks now, or a week or something like that.
It's probably going to be interesting to see how that develops. What are you going to do with? Are you worried about raccoons or birds going after your koi? How are you going to deal with that?
I'm not too worried about. Well, for the birds, I actually installed bird feeders because we have blue jays, and blue jays are an apex bird, and they scare off a lot of the other predators. So the other day, I think we had 12 blue jays just flying around and landing on the fence and whatnot. The bird feeders are on the inside, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, that bird seed's going to get in the pond." And I don't care that the koi will eat it. But then other people were like, "Oh, the birds are going to poop all over the deck." And I was like, "No, it'll, it's not going to be that bad." So I'm laying on the couch the other night, and my girlfriend looks at my foot. She's like, "What's that?" I was like, "Whoa." I was like, "What?" And I look at the bottom of my foot, and I probably for a solid half an hour, I was walking around with bird poop on my foot. So I'm going to be putting the bird feeders on the outside.
There you go.
Forward. Yeah. As for pests, I use what's that oil stuff? It's a natural oil that you can spray around places that stops pests. I forget what it's called. Cedar. I think it's called cedar. I think it's cedar oil. You could just spray it around your property, and it works. We have a deer explosion problem. They come onto the yard and eat everything. They'll kill everything. So I've been spraying that around, and it keeps them away.
That's awesome.
Really, yeah.
I got one more question here. Someone wants to know what you're going to learn, and what you're going to college for. What's your major?
Oh, I'm going to take business.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Goes hand in hand with what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not too excited about it. I know some people that have taken it, and there's multiple different avenues you could take with business. You can go through accounting, etc. But I'm just gonna see. Um, I already paid the tuition and stuff, so it's happening. I'm just not incredibly excited about it. I'm not good at school. I don't want to sit in a debt in well, they're doing online schooling now. There's no the colleges aren't letting people in the school right yet. Not for the fall. Maybe in the winter or something like that. But um, yeah, we'll see what happens. If I like it, I'll keep doing it. But if I don't like it, if I don't feel I'm getting any value out of it, or um, if I don't see it helping my future, then I'm just gonna quit.
Well, I know the reason why you went, and I think it going back, and I think it's a very noble reason. So why don't you tell the group here? Why'd you decide to go back to college?
Well, could be a number of reasons. The biggest thing for me is I dropped out in grade 10. I only have my GED. I don't have an education, and I became a successful YouTuber. And I don't want my children to think that that's how life works. I think it's very important for them to see me go to college. Um, so that's big reason why I'm doing it. Another, of course, is like YouTube's not going to be here forever. I got to figure something out. I mean, maybe YouTube will be here forever, but I can't see myself making videos when I'm 60, or nobody's gonna be watching that. I'll be competing with teenagers and stuff. It's gonna suck. It's already hard enough to stay relevant as like some guy that's pushing 40. It's tough. So we'll see what happens there.
No, that's awesome. I knew the kid piece, Joe. That's why I asked that question. I think that's really a noble thing to do. And
well, my daughter wants to go to college. She wants to be like a crime scene investigator. I forget what they're called. My son doesn't really have any interest in college. He's only 13. She's 15, so she's thinking about it now. She's actually being her classes are being customized for her to get her ready for college. So like she's taking more advanced things. She's very smart. But my son, I think he just wants to be a gamer. And that's fine. He can live in my basement for the rest of his life. I'm cool with it.
Get him on the videos. Have him take it over when you get older.
Yeah.
Do your kids have an interest in the fish? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
No. Nobody does, and I'm okay with that. I've had fish their entire lives. Like since they were born, there was fish tanks. So they've just became just like overexposed to them. They see them all the time. Nothing new. I mean, they think the gallery's kind of interesting, and they come out there every once in a while, but they don't come out there every day. Not even every week. Maybe once a month, a couple times a month, they'll come out, check things out. But they just don't have the interest, and I don't force it on them. So if they want to have a fish tank, they definitely got a good in. But other than that, it's gonna be up to them.
That's awesome. So you think you'll have fish your whole life, right? Even if YouTube fizzles out?
Yeah, I just wouldn't have as many tanks. Like I don't need that gallery for my personal hobby. It'd be cool, but it's just too expensive to run. I mean, it's thousands of dollars every month, and like if I can't live. I can't afford that if it wasn't for YouTube paying for it, basically. So I'd probably just have like one, or probably like I did before, like one or a big tank, and then maybe a smaller one, a couple smaller ones, something like that. Maybe I'd just keep the 375 or the 700 and something like that. I don't know what I would do.
But they'll always be a part of your life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We got a couple questions about your room before I let you go here. So what is the flooring of your gallery? And do you have like a floor drain, or how do you deal with all the water changes?
Yeah. So when I was building the gallery, I had to abide by all the bylaws of putting that building up. And one of the things was I wasn't allowed a floor drain. You can have them in your house, but you can't have them in a building like a garage or of some sort, because people abuse them and they put oil down them, etc. So I don't have a floor drain. If I install a floor drain, they will plug it on me, and I could be fined. So no floor drain. The floor is concrete. It is well, there used to be another garage in its place, so that building was ripped down and the foundation remained, and then we poured a new foundation right over it. So it's got about 16 inches of concrete for a floor, which is incredibly thick. Most floors are like 4 inches, and on top of that is just linoleum.
So you just drain outside into a septic, or where do you
Drain it outside? Yeah.
Makes sense. Cool. I think that's everything. Any last questions here before we let this man get back to his life in Canada? Looking good. Joe, thank you so much. Thank you. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing this with us. Guys, you got to see the stuff that his 1.3 or 4 million followers haven't even seen yet. So you should feel privileged here. And hopefully we can get some fish events coming up and hang out again soon. All right, bud?
Yeah, there should be some soon. Well, we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Joey, stay safe. If you need anything, let us know. North Jersey Aquarium Society. See you next month. Thank you, guys.